start, I would like to welcome you on behalf of all the members of Commercial Pilots Forum, Bangladesh.
Pleasure is all mine. I appreciate the invite. It was very happiness that I accepted. So it's thank you again for inviting me for this conversation.
So you've flown with Portugalia Air, and after that EVA Air. You've worked with very different many aircrafts across various cultures and flown with many different operators. Would you like to give us a holistic picture of how it was working with different operators, with different aircrafts, and definitely across different cultures?
Yes, of course. My flying career as a professional pilot started in the year 2011. It was actually after a big crash of 2008. 2008 was when I actually started the course to become a pilot, and that year, if you remember, you see that there was a big crash, but still I kept myself going on, and I finished in 2011, and I can say, a little bit lucky, and I managed to get the job still that year, and as you said, in Portugalia Airlines, based in Lisbon, where I flew the Embraer 145. So for those who don't know the model, it's a twin jet with the mounted engines on the tail, 45 passengers, so it's quite a small jet. Very good start, first of all because the automation on that aircraft, it's still relatively low, so there is not that much automation, and so it was very good to learn how to fly jets in that plane. It was a very good experience. I had fabulous captains with me. I made a lot of friends there, also cabin crews. The environment was very, very good. After 5 years, well, we can skip some of the parts that led to my exit. It was a personal decision, and I decided at that moment that I wanted to go abroad and have a different experience. And fortunately, I got the job in EVA Air to fly the Boeing 777, which was also a very good experience in terms of flying. I have to admit that long haul was not as good as I hoped it to be. I didn't enjoy it as much. I love the plane itself. It's very, very good. It was an amazing machine. Boeing 777 is a great plane. It was a huge difference from a very small jet to one of the biggest jets in the market. So the experience was, I can say, positive. Of course, there are other things like cultural differences, company cultures that sometimes would be in conflict with my European nature. That adventure lasted around 2.5 years, so 2 years and a half. And last year, in April 2019, I came back to Europe, and I got this job as a first officer for Air Baltic to fly the brand new Airbus 220. And this year was a very good year in terms of flying. Also a very, very good machine, of course. New technologies inside the cockpit. So it was very interesting times also.
Wow, you indeed have a wonderful range of varied experiences, and I'm sure a lot of new pilots and aspiring pilots and even a lot of experienced people can actually enhance their knowledge from this conversation today. So you have flown with different machines, like different kind of aircrafts and different machines. So how exactly would you like to say, how did you enjoy in terms of your short haul flights, in terms of long haul flights? What were the differences, and how would you say, let's say, the pros and cons? Because I believe a lot of aspiring pilots can actually have a clear idea about how these things are, and they can decide accordingly or make decisions or have an insight. Would you like to kindly share it with us?
Actually, let's talk about the mission itself and the operation. So when I was used to this kind of regional operation, flying from point A to point B in relatively short time, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, and doing this 3-4 times a day. Basically, that was the mission. coming home or sleeping at home almost every time, not many layovers or one night layover, whatever. And then you go to the long haul. And then your mindset has to change completely, because now you fly 4 times a month, which is very tricky, because you, in order to not to lose your proficiency, you have at home, you cannot just relax. A lot of times you have to go back, like you have your paper tiger there, and go back and review the procedures in your head in order not to forget, because flying 4 times a month, and especially sometimes when you have these long haul flights, and you have more than 2 people in the cockpit all the time. You have 3-4 people in the cockpit. A lot of times you're not even seated in the front rows in CM1 or CM2 in order to do the takeoff and landings. You're just being there for relief cruising pilots, you know. So it's quite tricky to maintain the proficiency, and that's a mindset you need to change. Because you stop flying every day, so you need to maintain your proficiency by going at home, study, reviewing all the procedures in your head, using the paper tiger to a lot of times do what we call the share flights, and your muscles and your brain doesn't forget anything. The other thing that you need to put in mind is that when flying long haul, it's the amount of time that you spend on an aircraft is really, really huge. My longest flight was from Taipei to Houston, and as block time, we did it 16 hours and 40 minutes. Very, very long. And although, of course, we do it in shifts and you have the opportunity to sleep, it's incredibly demanding in order to maintain a certain level of attention at certain points of the flight. So it's really, really incredible. And so those are the major differences in the operation. And of course, then you spend a lot of times out of your base, because every time you do a flight like this, you spend 3 days on the destination and then you come back. And if you are a foreigner and you having these commuting contracts, a lot of times you just spend 1 day on the base and then again the same type of flight for the next week. Because of course at the end of this period, you're just going home for 8-10 days. But while you're there, it's really like spending 1 day at the base. The rest of the time you are off base. Of course, you have time, especially for those who have. You can actually, for example, in EVA, you can actually take your family if you want, and you're gonna live there like a local. And so, of course, the types of scheduling is a little bit different, which means that you spend more time in base. But for me, that I was commuting to Portugal. Basically, I would spend most of the time on the layovers, and then I would just go home to spend 2 weeks, and then come back to resume the operation. I actually love having layovers. It's very nice to be out of home sometimes, you know.
Right.
So
I hope your family is not hearing you right now.
No, it's okay. It's very good that you can have layovers. It's very nice. Actually, I think it's one of the perks of this job is that you sometimes are allowed to know other countries where you fly to, not only airports. Unfortunately, the majority of the times you only know airports, but fortunately, sometimes we have the possibility of knowing the local cities.
The country itself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually very nice. Well, I can start from my period in when I was in Portugalia, and since it was a regional flight, we didn't have many layovers, and the ones we had was in the neighboring countries, which actually it is Spain, and I love there. I love Barcelona, for example, or Valencia, Bilbao. It was very nice layovers. It was 1 night, but it was enough to explore the gastronomy of the city, so taste the local food, see some museums. Like for example, in Bilbao, you can go to the Guggenheim Museum, which is a very good opportunity. So those were the best places I had when I was in Portugal. Then changing to EVA was way more opportunities to know other countries and other cities. So we used to go a lot to the United States.
Oh wow, that's
But I have to confess that from the United States, I would select two cities, completely opposite. New York, because New York is New York and it's really incredible. And the other one is San Francisco on the West Coast, and it's a beautiful city, and it's really has amazing places. So that would be the two, two of my favorite destinations in the United States. And then, of course, Canada, Vancouver. It's if you have the opportunity to visit, is really incredible. And in Asia, unfortunately, we didn't have many layovers in Asia. But I can say that one thing about Asia is the people, especially in the Far East, Southeast Asia, Far East. It's really amazing how people treat you. We used to have these layovers in Thailand or in Vietnam, Philippines. Not many times, but it was enjoyable places. It was very nice. And I think it's the ones that are more interesting are the ones where you would fly, for example, from Taiwan to the United States, and then you have these big differences in time schedule. You have 12 hours of time difference, and it's very complicated to adjust. Or sometimes you even think, is it necessary to adjust, or we just stay in the local time? So basically, my program for the layovers would be the first time or the second time I would go there, I would just try to visit the cities, try to explore. I wouldn't stay in the hotel, at least for the first times, you know, at least to know. Since I'm there.
get to know the place.
Yes, exactly. Get to know the places. That, of course, obliges you to make a time shift, and that can be tiring, but it's worth it. You will have the opportunity to resume your rest. But after 2 or 3 times in that place, then things start to be repetitive, right? So you're not aiming anymore to visit.
Boring.
Yes, of course. So on those times, I would just, for example, I would just stay in my base time. And this would mean that I would be awake during night, basically, and I would be sleeping during the day, in order not to be adjusting all the time and not suffering from jet lag. And another thing is that I would work out. That was one of the things that I would do. I would work out, going to the hotel gym, going for a run outside, read. I like to read, so I usually bring a book and read in the hotel. The other thing is, of course, the traditional Netflix and watch TV, which is also perfectly normal, and that's something I would do also. But basically, that's it. And of course, I would try to sleep during the day and be awake at night, which has its advantages and disadvantages. That's what I used to do.
So, Captain, globally, there are very few female pilots. What are your experiences and insights regarding flying with females in the cockpit? And I'm sure this would be a good message and for all the aspiring female pilots across the world.
Okay, so first of all, it's very enjoyable to have more and more women in the cockpits nowadays. It has been before a man's world, as they say it. No longer it is. There is a lot of women that desire to become pilots, and they do. And fortunately, in the majority of the companies, there is a equality policy, so there is no issues about being a woman. So I'm all in favor, of course, and of course I also know people that don't like it. But fortunately, those are not the majority, and those tend to disappear from our flight decks. And it's the same thing as flying. As you know, when you are in the cockpit, you have to follow the rules of the company. You have to fly as your partner, independently if it is a man or a woman. So there is no issues there. They are as or more qualified as we are. So, and it's very enjoyable. I like to fly with women. I've been flying with women since I was in the Embraer.
I'm sure the ladies are really happy to hear this right now. They're looking forward to flying with you.
And you know that when I fly with women, since I'm a first officer, they are the captain. And it's actually pretty good. I don't have any complaints. On the opposite, they're They're very easy to work with. And what can I say? I just hope that if you want to be a pilot, no matter if you are a man or a woman, just try your best to become a pilot, and that's it. And then inside the cockpit, just do your best to be a good pilot, and the rest is irrelevant, I think.
Right. Yes, I understand. What you're trying to say is a crew, and they're all equally capable of doing their work. Yes, and people should really pursue their dreams or what they're passionate about. That's wonderful.
A crew is a crew. If you want to be a pilot, just embrace it. Study hard. Try to develop your skills, your knowledge, and then you'll be welcome in any cockpit. So no matter if you are a boy or girl or a man or a woman, just you should have the same opportunities. And fortunately, I think the world is now giving more and more the equal opportunities for everybody. My travelings have never took me to the middle far east of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar. Those places I've never been, unfortunately. I've flown a lot of times over Bangladesh and Dhaka airspace.
Oh, next time, no overflight permission for you. You're not meeting us.
We had these routes from Bangkok to Europe that we would overfly Dhaka a lot of times, and India. But unfortunately, I've never been in Bangladesh. I'm not going to tell you that I know a lot about Bangladesh. And of course, when we scheduled this interview, I read some stuff. But of course, I'm not going to just put myself here in the spot saying that I am an expert on those issues. No, I'm not.
Well, Louis, the members from the Commercial Pilots Forum Bangladesh invites you to visit Bangladesh sometime if you're taking a trip around Southeast Asia. And the most wonderful thing is Bangladesh is a country blessed with natural beauty, starting from hill tracks in the Chittagong. There are hill tracks and there are mountains, very green. And also it's a riverine country. There's many different kind of river and all are natural views. And the most amazing part is that we have the longest natural sea beach. I mean, it's the longest sea beach in the world, and that too is natural. It's an amazing place, an amazing site. It's really beautiful, and I hope sometimes if you can visit, if you have time and you're visiting Bangladesh, it would be our pleasure, and definitely you must visit the sea beach.
I appreciate, and that invitation I will for sure comply with it, and as soon as I have the opportunity I will visit you in Bangladesh and try your food.
So it has been a wonderful conversation. I've learned a lot in course of talking with you, and I'm sure all our viewers have learned it a lot too, and also have an insight of how things are. And it's been a great pleasure having you in our today's session, and we also look forward to having more sessions with you in the future. Before we finish, I would like to thank you and express our gratitude and appreciation on behalf of all the members of the Commercial Pilots Forum Bangladesh. I'd like to thank you on behalf of everyone, because everybody has they're very happy that you've given the time, and we look forward to seeing you again. Yes, and thank you so much. Our warm wishes to you and your family, and hope that all this pandemic and situation gets over soon and you soar the skies. Thank you, Louis. Thank you for being with us.
It has been a pleasure. I would like to say something before we finish, is that COVID, especially in this year, because unfortunately, COVID-19 came to hit us very hard, especially the aviation industry, which is a global industry. And of course, these restrictions to traveling obliged a lot of companies to dismiss personnel. And that's very, very sad. And for those, I'd still say that I was one of those persons dismissed, unfortunately, but we will be back by the end of the year. Next year, so things are already with a very positive upturn. I I have to say that, for example, Air Baltic is now restarting flights with a very good speed. We are increasing the number of flights very fast, and we have to say that our CEO, Martin Gauss, and his team have been doing a fantastic job to put the company back in their tracks to fly and go back to the previous numbers. And I'm sure aviation will go back to its values. It can take some time, but people will still travel. I'm sure we will be back. Aviation will be back to its golden age or golden era of getting better and better and growing. So, and that leaves me with a message for those ones that were dismissed this year or are just finished their course and they are hoping to get some company to recruit them, or for those ones who before had the courses and still wanting for a job. It will happen. You will get your job. Don't be afraid. Things will get back. It will get better, and you will have a job in this fantastic aviation industry. It might take a while, but it's worth it. I was also doing some instruction in Air Baltic Pilot Academy, and of course the students were very disappointed with all this situation, and they all asked, "What's going to happen with us? Should we continue?" And my message is, you should continue. By the time you finish, some of you are finishing. Things are going on the up curve, and even if you have to wait 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, you're still gonna get a job and you're gonna fly a beautiful aircraft. For the pilots group of Bangladesh, I would like to say that I really appreciate your invitation to be with you and having this beautiful conversation. Hope to see you again in the near future, or presently, or with another meeting like this one. And for those of you in the pilots group that are now at home, just keep positive thinking, let's go forward, and soon we will be in the air again, taking conversations and calling to the ATC, so that's the most important.
Captain Louis, it has been our privilege and indeed a pleasure to have you. Thank you for your time. Our sincere appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the members of the Commercial Pilots Forum Bangladesh. Thank you so much for your time. It has been quite a brilliant experience. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having a session with you again or talking to you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and soar the skies really high. Safe flights and safe landings. Thank you so much.